Hello and welcome to episode 489 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always, joined by Evan Silva. Happy Thanksgiving, brother. How's it going?
It's going well. Full 16-game slate this week. No teams on bye. 6 teams obviously playing on Thanksgiving. I've been laser focused on those games to this point. Had to drive to my parents' house on Sunday night, but I'm here. Got all all 3 games written up in the matchups, and I'm ready for. I love playing DFS on Thanksgiving.
It is a great slate to play for sure. You get those 3 back-to-back games instead of concurrent games. Really is amazing. On today's show, we are going to go team by team through each NFC squad, talking through what we saw and what it means. Evan mentioned he has the 3 Thanksgiving games up, his breakdown of them. We also have projections up for the Thanksgiving slate right now. Before we go any further, want to let everyone know that even though I hate Thanksgiving week, I do love a good Black Friday sale. The Black Friday sale I'm about to describe, however, does come out of me and Evan's pocket, so I am not as thrilled, but alas, here we are. So we hardly ever run sales, almost never, but we have a ridiculous one going right now. It is just $4.99 to try ETR NFL for 1 week. That is 80% off the normal price of 1 week. The sale also includes $39.99 to try 1 month of ETR. The normal price is $75.99. So go to EstablishTheRun.com/Black Friday for details. Again, EstablishTheRun.com/Black Friday for details. You can also find the link to all these offers pinned on my Twitter. Also, we have to note this podcast is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Big action on the 3-game slate on Underdog if you prefer Snake Draft. And Snake Draft is a lot of fun. I think the edge can be really, really big. Our rankings for Underdog Fantasy Battle Royale Thanksgiving slate are also up. If you don't have an Underdog account, promo code ETR when you sign up, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. Again, promo code ETR at UnderdogFantasy.com. All right, let's get started here with the Cardinals. Evan went down to Mexico City and got their butts kicked by the San Francisco 49ers last night. Obviously, I had my eye on the first full game for Trey McBride without Zach Ertz. I mean, average depth of target was really, really low. He did play 54 out of 71 snaps. 23 of them were slot or wide, but only a 9% target share, 4 catches for 14 yards. What did you see out of Trey McBride's first game without Ertz? And then we do have to talk about the Rondale Moore injury.
Yeah, I thought that the usage was pretty good. He didn't have a ton of yards. He didn't really get any great run after catch opportunities, but that's something that he's got in his bag. He was a great run after catch tight end at Colorado State. I feel pretty good about him. I mean, I think he's like a fringe tight end 1 right now based on his initial usage. It was funny. I was watching the game with my parents, and they were watching Greg Dortch, and they're like, "What's this guy? He's so small." And I was like, "Yeah, that's why he didn't get drafted."
Yeah,
but he's really good at football. He was really good in college, and he big time capitalized on the Rondale Moore groin injury. Looks like Rondale Moore is going to be week to week.
Yeah, Rondale Moore left after 1 snap. And when guys are like immediately shut down after 1 snap, I tend to think that it's going to be a multi-week issue. Now, Greg Dortch, Rondale Moore has missed all or most of 4 games this year. Greg Dortch in those 7 catches for 63 yards, 455, 1, 980, and 91030. 3 of those games came without DeAndre Hopkins, and Hollywood Brown could be back next week. So it's not as clean as maybe it seems for Greg Dortch, but I still think that role is so good. That slot role, Greg Dortch cannot play anywhere else than the slot. He will be in there in the slot, even if Marquise Brown gets back. So I still do like Greg Dortch as an ad here. We'll see on the status of Marquise Brown. Falcons. I mean, the Kyle Pitts stuff, man, it looked like maybe he was on his way to a decent game. Sadly, hurts his MCL, tears his MCL. Looks like he's going to need surgery. He's on IR. If he gets back, it'll be for like week 17 or 18 or something like that. At best, if Kyle Pitts even makes it back, we will see there. But almost like cathartic, Evan, like Kyle Pitts by far my worst take of the preseason was to be in on Kyle Pitts in round 3. And it's just cathartic just to drop him. The other thing I saw in this game was Cordero Patterson, 10 carries, Algier 8, Huntley 1. they're going to split it 3 ways, and Mariota had 13 carries in this game. So, the CPAT stuff, he needs to be efficient. He needs to score touchdowns. He's still a very good player. He still has a reasonable role, but it's a strict rushing role, and they're going to give a lot of guys carries. Anything else for you on Atlanta, who got a good win over the Bears at home?
No, just that CPAT, although he's not like a clear-cut feature back, like shout out to him, 9th career kick return touchdown, and probably the best kick returner of all time. I mean, that's legit where he is, and he's still balling. I mean, what an awesome career. He was considered a bust for a while.
Oh yeah, big time.
He's been in the league like 10 years at this point.
Yeah. Carolina, this Baker Mayfield stuff, man. I mean, you just can't win with him. I mean, they scored 3 points at Baltimore. Panthers defense showed up and played really well. And like, you just cannot win with Baker Mayfield at this point. It seems, I don't even know if they're going to go back to him or not. Who knows what they're going to do this week going forward? What you see out of the Panthers' ugly loss in Baltimore?
People are talking about dropping DJ Moore. Can we just give it one more week to maybe get to Sam Darnold? Mm-hmm. Because I think that he's got a shot with Sam Darnold based on what they did together last year. But I mean, this is one of these offenses where, things can go really, really bad in any given game. And D'Onta Foreman, although he has played really well, like he just gets absolutely washed out in a game like this. And it wasn't even like, a massive game script sort of situation like they did against the Bengals. I mean, the game was fairly close. I mean, it was 3-3 for the vast majority of the game. But the offense is just so bad around D'Onta Foreman. He's going to have some major duds like this one.
Yeah, and it reminds me of Dameon Pierce. Like Foreman and Dameon Pierce setups are similar to me, like really, really good runners who can get 20 carries, 25 carries in a game. Pierce maybe more so than Foreman, but the team environment, I mean, it can go really bad. And so when, some of the stuff I talk about with the IKB, with projections and stuff like that, like it's hard to boil an entire range of outcomes down to one number. And obviously, when things go bad for D'Onta Foreman, when they go bad for Dameon Pierce, I mean, it can go really bad. I mean, really bad. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how are you handling D'Onta Foreman right now in season long? Do you just kind of like set it and forget it? Because I had a guy asking me, he really did not want to play D'Onta Foreman because he just thought that it was going to be such a bad situation. I was like, yeah, but the dude has like every week he could get up to like 25 carries.
Yeah. I think in spots, in like flex spots where I can play like reasonable wide receivers over him, I think I typically would do that in half PPR and full PPR. But, my teams are so running back thin that like I'm starting D'Onta Foreman at running back. I think you'll know if you have a better option than him at the running back position. Speaking of better options at running back, Chicago Bears, without Khalil Herbert, predictably, David Montgomery played 80% of the snaps, ran a route on 75% of the dropbacks. He got 17 carries and 5 targets. The Fields rushing stuff is a big impact on David Montgomery's rushing stuff. Like it's hard to get 20, 25 carries when Fields is rushing so much. But now we get this Justin Fields left non-throwing shoulder injury. And I do think that he was legit hurt. And I do think that he ran less in the second half of that game because of it. We'll see on Justin Fields' status day today going forward. What did you see out of the Bears down there in Atlanta?
Yeah, and there was a report that Justin Fields had a dislocated left shoulder, and then there were multiple reports. His agent must have sent out like a mass text to several different reporters because a bunch of reporters all at the same time said that his left shoulder is not dislocated. We'll just have to find out. I mean, we're doing this early afternoon on Tuesday, and it doesn't seem like there's been any firm reporting about what's going on with Justin Fields anywhere from day to day to season ending.
Yeah, he is on pace to run for 1,289 yards. 1,289. That would break Lamar's 2019 record. I mean, and absolutely insane what he continued to do. I thought under 78 rushing yards for him was a good bet this past week. And yeah, he's just completely out of control.
Yeah.
Dallas. So question here on Dallas is the running back stuff. And was this an Zeke easing back in situation, or are they finally going for it with Tony Pollard? My take is that they're going for it. I really think that they are. Tony Pollard led Zeke 39-21 in snaps, 18-5 in routes, 21-16 in opportunities. You did see Zeke get in there for like some goal line stuff, right? And like I think that's where Zeke can still be effective and better for them. But I do think going forward, my take is that Tony Pollard will see more touches going forward than Zeke. It's just they're going for it, man. Like you can't go back to Zeke after what Pollard's done the last 3 games. But I see the other side of the argument that they said they were going to credit to Tom Pelissero, by the way, who reported this Sunday morning that they were going to go with Pollard as the lead back in this game. I don't know, Evan. Will they go with it going forward, I guess is the question.
All I can say is that I think we know for sure that they should. And I think that they will. Because as we talked about at the beginning of the season, like they really don't have a ton of explosiveness in their offense otherwise. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's really good. Dalton Schultz, solid, possession receiving tight end. Michael Gallup is still making his way back, I think. They need that exposure, that dynamic ability in their offense, and Tony Pollard gives that to them. So good in the passing game. I mean, and that's really what he was in college. If you go back to Memphis, he was more of like a return guy and a receiving back. I think he has to be the lead back going forward. I would expect 14 to 17 touches each week from him, and more along the lines of like 9 to 13 for Zeke Elliott. Let him have the goal line stuff. Tony Pollard can still get there from far out. Dak is balling right now. Yeah. Okay. Dak is on fire. He didn't have a big rushing day in this game, but they have been dialing up some design runs for him. He's 100% healthy.
Yeah.
And he's a really, really good quarterback when he is at full strength. And that's what he is right now. It sounds like they might get Tyron Smith back one of these weeks coming up. And I mean, the arrow is pointing up on the Cowboys.
Yeah. I mean, clearly the Cowboys were favored in Minnesota, who was 8-1 at the time. And then they beat them 40-3, And so there's gonna be a lot of people out there with takes that Dallas is the best team in the NFC. I would say San Francisco and Eagles have an argument also, but yeah, should be a good NFC playoffs. There's no doubt. Detroit, they've won 3 straight games, man. Shout out to our Lions. Like I had almost marked all the Lions future stuff as dead, and maybe it's still his, but at least it has some life now. Does the Lions stuff? Good win for them. DJ Chark did get back for this game. Barely played though. Kind of expected given how long he was out and how severe ankle stuff is that he's coming back from. Jameson Williams was activated from IR. I'm not sure when he's actually going to play, but I'd love to see him out there before the end of the year. And then the big news, Evan, 3 more touchdowns for Jamal Williams. People keep asking me, Evan's going to win the Jamal Williams 150-1 most touchdowns. What's going on? Here's the update. Jamal Williams has 12 rushing touchdowns. Nick Chubb has 11. Derrick Henry has 10. I mean, obviously, I think Chubb and Henry are still a favorite given it's that close in their team dynamics. But there's so many times this year where like a guy's been knocked out at the 1 on the Lions, and it's Jamal Williams every single time. So good sweat here for Evan. What else did you see on the Lions? You got to win in MetLife.
Yeah, I still think Jamal Williams is a dog, but I also in that race particularly. But we got a shot. We're over halfway through the season, and we've got a shot. So I will definitely take that. I also think that the Lions have just outright settled on Jamal Williams as their lead back. And I think that, just based on their use, I mean, this has been going on for multiple games now. It's DeAndre Swift and Justin Jackson splitting the number 2 running back role.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that that's kind of just what it is right now.
Yeah. I think DeAndre Swift looks healthy to me. I think he looks healthy to the team Watch the Tape Bros. At this point, it just is what it is. Jamal Williams is getting outsnapped and outtouched by Justin Jackson on a weekly basis. And obviously Jamal Williams is the feature back. So that maybe DeAndre Swift did something to Dan Campbell. I mean, I don't know, man, but it just is what it is.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Lions going forward. What are we taking for the wins? Was it 6.5?
I have the most on 6.5, but I have some alternate stuff on 7.5 too. But yeah, most of the baseline was 6.5.
Their schedule's pretty rough.
Yeah, it's going to be a
Bills, Jaguars, Vikings, Jets are pretty tough. Carolina, Chicago, they should be able to win those 2, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be a sweat for sure. Green Bay, Christian Watson did it again, man. I mean, he ran 31 routes on 40 dropbacks. That was ahead of Randall Cobb's 26 routes, obviously ahead of Gus Ball, Sammy Watkins, 14 routes behind Allen Lazard. But Christian Watson, 2 more touchdowns, clearly gaining big-time trust from Aaron Rodgers. But another loss here last Thursday, seems like forever ago now, but last Thursday for the Packers. What do you see on that island game against the Titans?
Well, they pulled Randall Cobb off IR, and right away, like Aaron Rodgers just targeting the piss out of him. I mean, he had a pretty big night, 6 for 73. Allen Lazard continues to, get. Someone mentioned Allen Lazard as like a buy low right now. All the attention is on Christian Watson, and I kind of agree with that. I think Allen Lazard, like, there's no threat to his role. He had 11 targets in this game. He's going to continue to be a guy that Aaron Rodgers looks to in the red zone. I think you can start him with confidence. I think you can start Christian Watson with confidence at this point too.
Yep, for sure. Rams, it's over for the Rams, man. I mean, if there was any hope left for the Rams, it's definitely over now. And I kind of wrote them off after like week 2 or week 3, which has felt pretty good. But now with Matthew Stafford suffering another concussion, his second in 2.5 weeks or whatever, I would expect him to miss a bunch of time. Obviously, Cooper Kupp is not going to rush back to be part of this league worst or one of the league's worst teams. This is kind of what happens, man. They went for it. They gave up all their draft picks. They gave up all their cap. They went for it. They won the Super Bowl. And now it's just like total dust. I know Amico has been on the train that McVay is just going to like torch it and leave and go be on TV somewhere, which might be the case. I mean, they'd have like no way really to get back on track this season. And I don't even know about the future. So I don't even think about like starting any of these guys or playing any of them in DFS, like Skowronek and Allen Robinson. It just seems dead. I do think they might have started Bryce Perkins here, which would be interesting, but we'll see there. Anything for you on the Cooper Kupp-less Rams and maybe some Bryce Perkins stuff, Evan?
Yeah, Bryce Perkins can run. Stafford is back in the concussion protocol.
Yep.
So I don't know. Maybe they'll just shut him down for the year. I think that's the sort of thing that's in play at this point in a dead season. They're 3-7. I don't know. Shout out to Tutu Atwell. A 2-yard touchdown, 1 target. He's got a great yards per target average at this point. That was his second career catch.
Did you know the only reason that Tutu Atwell actually didn't blow away in that game was because it was in a dome? If that game was outside, there's no way he would have made that play. Would have Tutu.
Well, no. Next time he's in a dome, got to play Tutu Atwell.
And Vikings laid an absolute egg, one of the worst eggs of the season. I get that it's a tough spot. Dallas has the best pass rush in the league. Kirk Cousins took 7 sacks, 7, and he didn't even play the whole game because they were just like, screw it, we're not winning this game. I mean, 40-3. I don't know where we can really have takeaways here other than the Vikings were not prepared for Dallas's pass rush whatsoever. Anything you saw from the Vikings' ugly loss to the Cowboys?
I just thought it was sort of karma for all the goofballs who were ranking the Vikings as the number 1 team in their power rankings. Like, just make a list of the teams in order of their win-loss records, and they're a solid team. I like the Vikings, but to think that they're better than like the Chiefs and all, that was just ridiculous.
Well, nobody thought they were better. The Cowboys were favored in Minnesota.
A lot of people had them number 1 in their power
right,
rankings.
But those people don't actually bet money, right? So to me, these people are opinions are worthless. If you thought the Vikings were number 1 in power rankings, you should have been licking your chops to get them as a 2-point or 1.5-point dog at home to the Cowboys. Clearly, Vikings is not on the same level. Yeah,
and there's not a whole lot you can take away from this box score because of the lopsided nature of how that game went down. But I just say that TJ Hawkinson maintains a massive role in this passing game, and he's going to have a tough matchup on Thursday night against Kyle Duggar and the Patriots. But I just love the way that they're utilizing him. He's an every week fantasy starter.
Yeah, and by the way, the Thanksgiving Established, the show, me, Silva, and Wiggins, where we talk about the DFS slate, that is free this week. It will be Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube. Be sure you set a reminder for that. We'll talk about the outlook for TJ Hawkinson, Josh Allen, all these guys that are playing on Thursday.
Also, the Vikings left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, who's been playing at like an all-pro level, he suffered a concussion. It's going to be really hard for him to get back on the short week.
Yep. Yeah. Saints. So they mixed in Taysom a lot here in this game. 17 snaps for Taysom at quarterback, which is way more than they've done recently. Taysom got off 9 runs, 3 passes, 1 target. I just put that out there because desperate people for tight end where he's tight end eligible, like, you lost Kyle Pitts or who knows, you can play Taysom if he's going to get those 17 quarterback snaps. We'll try to get a read from Underhill if he'll do that going forward. What else did you see from the Saints game in week 11?
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about Jameis maybe going in, replacing Andy Dalton if Andy Dalton played poorly. Andy Dalton responded with a great game.
Yeah.
So he's going to maintain that starting job. The Saints get the win. I think they should continue to involve Taysom more. I mean, their offense had really been sputtering. All of a sudden, they get Taysom rolling, and like their offense plays well in a bad spot. Their offensive line was so banged up entering that game. I thought that Aaron Donald was going to go off, but there are ways that you can defend against Aaron Donald, and the Rams aren't. The Rams they're not very good.
Yeah, and Saints have to play at San Francisco this week, and then at Tampa the following week. So tough stretch here for the Saints stuff. I don't
Really
think.
tough.
Yeah, I mean the Kamara's usage continues to be good, but volume a volume of plays for the Saints just hasn't really been there enough. Kamara handled 12 of 13 running back carries in this game, and obviously the Taysom stuff is not great for the Kamara stuff either, pass catching or rushing.
Also, Juwan Johnson.
Yeah,
I mean he's strung together like 4 really good games. The first 2, a lot of it came in garbage time. So I had like a level of skepticism, maybe Adam Troutman could get more involved. I mean, he's doing it now in non-garbage time scenarios. I mean, and he is, he's a guy that you want in your lineup every week at this point.
Giants. I'm not sure you're aware, Evan, but the man known as Daniel J. Dimes is now fantasy's quarterback 10 in points per game. And this is playing with, you lose Sterling Shepard, you lose Colin Johnson. Slayton was benched for most of the year. Golladay gives them nothing. Now, Wan'Dale Robinson, who's been hurt for a lot of the year, he blows out his knee, which actually is really sad on Wan'Dale because he had a breakout game, 9-100-0 on 13 targets. Just a credit to what a rushing quarterback can give you when it's with Brian Daboll. You don't even need weapons. Danny Dimes continues to ball. But yeah, now, I mean, they're really, really thin. The Wan'Dale thing really sucks. What you see out of the Giants, who really, really underperformed in a home game against the Lions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the Giants are another one of these teams that has a really good record and just isn't really that good. You have to appreciate the coaching and them maximizing what they have. They just don't have a whole lot. Wan'Dale Robinson was in the midst of his like legit breakout game, tears his ACL. Richie James is going to be a guy that we're going to be talking about on the Thanksgiving show because he can play the slot. And I think he could get a lot of run. He was on the injury report earlier this week, though, but he will be a guy that we will talk about extensively as like sort of a sleeper on the Thanksgiving slate.
I'm curious what you think of the Saquon game against the Lions because I played Saquon in cash and I just needed like 12 points and he got 5. I mean, home against the Lions, and people are saying his workload's been too big. He's wearing down. Now he's got a short week. We'll talk about all this on Thursday, but generally where you think Saquon is at.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a little inefficient over his last 3. Just has not been hitting the big runs. And I mean, look, defenses are trying to take him away. I mean, the Giants have only had 2 consistent offensive contributors, and they've both been, it's been Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, like as runners. So, I mean, I think it's just a blip during the season. The workload certainly isn't going to go away. I think he'll break some big ones coming up here shortly.
Let's go to the Eagles. Eagles played this game in Indy, and they went really, really run heavy. I mean, maybe that was something to do with the Goddard stuff, but even when they were behind, I mean, they were really run heavy. 16 Jalen Hurts carries, 14 designed runs for Jalen Hurts. Just an absurd number. Overall, they ran it 33 times and only threw it 25 in a game they were trailing a lot for. So what do you think of the Eagles in their first game without Dallas Goedert squeaking out a win up in Indy?
Yeah, a little bit surprising that game plan. They're playing indoors and against a Colts run defense that has been really good this year. The tight end situation in the absence of Dallas Goedert, we really got nothing there. But yeah, I mean, Devontae Smith was solid. AJ Brown was solid. Quez Watkins with the touchdown. Wasn't that Dink's flag plant?
Yeah. And so I actually played Quez on a Hurts stack, and like I didn't expect a big role change from him, he's just a guy that like might get 1 to 3 targets, and that didn't really change. He only got 2 targets. He didn't really have a role change with Goddard out. So I'm skeptical about overreacting to the Quez Watkins thing, but
No.
he's going to pop up for a touchdown here or there. I mean, he goes deep and he gets a couple targets a game. 49ers last night. I mean, she can have big games, man. Like when you have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk, I don't care who your quarterback is. Like you're going to have some big games. Just get these guys the ball and let them go nuts. And that's a lot of what you saw against Arizona. The other thing with San Francisco, everybody's talking about, Eli Mitchell has now out-carried Christian McCaffrey 2 games in a row. And like, I get that a lot of that was second half blowout stuff. In the first half, it was actually tight. Not in the first half. It was tight when the game was within 2 scores between Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey. But man, Kyle Shanahan using Christian McCaffrey on like these swing passes and these passing routes is so good. Obviously still the best running back in fantasy, in my opinion. What you see out of the 49ers last night against the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, the way that they're using him is like really fun. I know he's losing some carries to Elijah Mitchell, and Elijah Mitchell has earned that. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do about it. Like, we're not going to stop playing Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. Maybe it'll sway us against Christian McCaffrey when we're making DFS decisions, but Christian McCaffrey can also have monster games. He looks like a wide receiver running routes from the slot, running routes outside. I mean, I love the way that they're using him right now. And I mean, they're using him so much in the passing game, which historically, the Kyle Shanahan RBs haven't caught a lot of passes, but they're making sure that Christian McCaffrey gets his passing game usage in. George Kittle just smacked the Cardinal. We've talked about this a lot. Like offensive coordinators specifically target the Arizona linebackers in pass coverage with their tight ends, and George Kittle just totally smashed that spot where he should have. I thought Deebo looked pretty good, but he did not. Oh, he did break that touchdown late in the game to have a pretty good fantasy result.
Of course. Yeah. And, Kyle Shanahan is like, to me, the ultimate talent maximizer, right? So like, he doesn't think that Christian McCaffrey is best used 25 carries. Let's give some of those base carries to Eli Mitchell. And to me, Christian McCaffrey is still like elite. Obviously, our projections will factor in for DFS exactly how much he loses by sharing some carries with Eli Mitchell. Seattle was on a bye. They'll come out of the bye for a good spot home against the Las Vegas Raiders. Anything for you on Seattle as they come out of their bye here?
No, I think that they're going to have a solid finish offensively. Again, their offensive tackles, their rookie offensive tackles, they just crushed this draft, by the way. But these offensive tackles have played at a really high level all season. Geno Smith, so is the favorite for NFL Comeback Player of the Year, to which you have a ticket. Yeah. And DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, healthy coming out of the bye. I mean, I think that the outlook is pretty solid here.
Yeah, and the Kenneth Walker usage was really good in the pass game, in the game before the bye, and I thought Tyler Lockett has been a bit banged up. Really good time, I think, for Seattle to get a bye here and kind of regroup for a home game against Vegas. Good spot. Bucs are also coming out of their bye. They'll play at Cleveland. Story coming out of the bye is, of course, Rachaad White started the game before the bye. Lenny had a hip issue that he picked up later in that game. We'll see on Lenny's status. Any predictions, assuming Lenny is healthy, any predictions on the Rachaad White versus Lenny split going forward?
I think that it's going to be pretty close to 50-50, and that they'll do like the hot hand thing where, if somebody's looking good, like they'll ride them. But I would like, if I was going to do projections, like pretty much straight 50-50.
Yep. Washington football team. So Terry McLaurin, we know the deal by now. 7 targets on 27 Heineke attempts. Like, that's his boy. There's just not a lot of room for Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson because those guys have short ADOTs, and especially Curtis Samuel. And so they need volume to get there. It's just not happening. Obviously, Curtis Samuel, I believe, got a rushing touchdown in this game. It was good to see Logan Thomas, man. I thought that injury was going to end his career. Logan Thomas, 5 catches, 65 yards on 6 targets in this game. Really, really good. And then the running backs, I said all week, I thought Gibson was a better play than Brian Robinson. Gibson, of course, gets the pass game work. And in this game, Antonio Gibson actually outcarried Brian Robinson 18-15. Also, really good signs for Antonio Gibson now that we know J.D. McKissic is done for the season. What do you see out of Washington's easy win? They're playing well, man. And what do you see out of Washington's easy win over the Texans?
Yeah, they are. They've won 5 of their last 6 now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like all of a sudden firmly in the playoff hunt. Yeah, I mean, I think Antonio Gibson is an every week RB2 at this point. Brian Robinson, like a touchdown dependent RB2/flex. But Antonio Gibson, I mean, again, he's got a lot more ability than Brian Robinson has. And now that we've narrowed this backfield down to 2, J.D. McKissic is officially out for the year. Antonio Gibson is playable, and Brian Robinson is playable to an extent.
All right. That is going to do it for the NFC team by team pod. Again, please be sure to check out, if you've never tried Establish the Run NFL before, this will be the cheapest you will ever have an opportunity to do it this week only for Black Friday week. Head to the pinned tweet on my Twitter for the link if you've never tried ETR before. For Evan, for Producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.